Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So before we move forward, I just want to let you know a few things regarding the rest of the course. So I have shared two PDF books with you, right? So one of the book we used for the previous lectures, and from today onwards, mostly I will be using this book, and you can see the name here. The slides are just complete chapter of the book, today's slides. So you see the book name is Learning Python Network Programming by Sarkar and Washington. These are the last names of the authors. Okay, so Learning Python Network Programming, I have already shared this book with you. So today's lecture is just chapter number 2 of that book. So you can go back and read from the book as well. So why I'm following the book? Because it will give you a consistent idea that what is programming and network programming and how these things are taking place. So today we are going to cover HTTP and working with the web. Okay, so first of all, HTTP or Hyperterminal Text Protocol is probably the most widely used protocol of this is application layer protocol. It was originally developed to allow the academics to share HTML documents. Nowadays is used for the many core protocols and a lot of usage of this protocol. And you might know that a lot of REST API and other, the APIs also use the HTTP sometime. So in this lecture, we will be covering HTTP protocol structure, using Python for taking services through HTTP, downloading files, HTTP capabilities such as compression and cookies, handling errors, URLs, the Python standard library URL lib package we will go through, and there is a third party package which is called request package in Python. We will be discussing that as well. So today's lecture is more about how Python interact with the HTTP or web. So if you are facing any difficulties, so you should go back and review your concept about web and HTTP protocol. So I will try to share another book which is very useful for learning this. That content must have covered in the the subject you studied, computer networks, or it is called the network and communication, something like this here. Okay, but I will try to explain. So first of all, the standard Python library package for HTTPS task is the URL lib. So this is the user package. So this is recommended Python standard library package for HTTP. This is a low-level module called HTTP and offers access to almost all aspects of protocol, but it is not being designed for the everyday use. So this is important point here. Why it is not designed for everyday use? Because this package is used for specifically some sort of APIs or some sort of interactive sort of your program. So can I ask a very simple question? What is the basic HTTP application you use to browse your the website, to access your web? What application you use? Browser, right? Name some browsers. Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Explorer, yeah, Internet Explorer, yeah, used to be, but now it's Microsoft Edge, right? Anyone use some specific browser for gaming? Netscape, I think it's obsolete, right? Used to be some. So that are the apps, right, that communicate with the web server. But now today we are learning how through the programming you communicate with the web server, right? So website, you just use website in the browser www.ums.edu.my and enter, right? But now we will be exploring some packages and some programming based things. And why we just learning this? Because a lot of things are now on APIs. So APIs communicate with servers. You know, the have any of you have idea of web crawler or web bot? What are these web crawlers? Why we use web crawler? Anyone knows? Maybe my accent is difficult to get you the word. It's crawler, CRAWLER, I think, something like this. No idea? Okay, anyone knows the CAPTCHA, you know, CAP, CAPTCHA or whatever, how you call it, what it is? CAPTCHA or whatever. Why we use this? To prove human, right? So why? Because a lot of web crawler or bots are, you know, the downloading or reading and whatever doing on the webs. So some to stop the, you know, the bots or crawlers to they do this, they introduce that. So quickly we'll go forward. So these the third party request package we just discussed in the start is very popular alternative for this, you know, the URL lib, and it has elegant features and powerful set, and we will discuss this as well, and it's extremely HTTP workload. So let's move forward. So HTTP is an application layer protocol, you must know, and it almost used on top of TCP, transmission control protocol. So we discussed this in previous class as well, and just quickly remind you that before making a connection, HTTP connection, the TCP works. On top of TCP, HTTP works. So how it works? Like suppose a web browser say message hello to the web server. Web server say hello. Then they do three-way handshake. Three-way handshake means they make a connection and now they have established a TCP connection. On that TCP connection, they start using now HTTP request goes. So now then after having a TCP connection, the web browser or of any client send a request for http dot www dot whatever web address, and then in the response what it gets, I told you in previous classes, what we get from the web server in the response. We send some HTTP or URL request to the web server, and what we get in the response. Sorry, loudly. Yes, mostly we receive some files, some HTML file, some, you know, the web, sorry, the images, some videos, something like this. Okay. So that work on top of the, you know, the TCP. So HTTP exchange consists of two elements: a request made by the client. So in that case, in our case, client is our Python program. But in the normal case, what client we use? Web browser. Okay, so then a response from the server which supplies the resources that the client asks for, and the server can't provide resources that client has not requested. If it can't, then the response will contain information about failure. And you might have seen this 404 error, right? When you don't get something, or the web specific link is moved. Okay, so this order, my voice is audible, right? On the back. Last person, can you hear me? You are also part of this class, right? Yes? Okay. So this order of event is to fix the HTTP, and all interaction are initiated by the client. So the server never sends anything to client without client exceptionally asked for. Okay, that is important point. So you will never download any of the file which you did not click or you did not ask. That is in the sense of browser, but in the sense of program, we have to write for the request. Okay, so as I mentioned that this is the chapter number 2 of the book, so I just copied from that book. So this chapter will teach you how to use the Python as an HTTP client, and we will learn how to make requests to the server and then interpret their responses. Interpret their responses means whatever response comes, we will discuss that what is this, right? So we will look at the server side application in chapter 9, which is called application for the web. So you must go and download that book I have already shared. So by far the most widely used version is HTTP 1.1. But anyone knows what HTTP version is nowadays going on? 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.3 or what? Okay, try to Google it quickly. What is the latest HTTP version? Why I asked you to Google? Because you will take a responsibility that you are part of this class. You will little bit goes in your mind. Otherwise, you might be in, the silent mode or hibernate mode. You are just here but idle, not listening, not going anything in your mind. I don't want you like this. Okay. Quickly, what is the latest web version? HTTP version, sorry. 1.3 or 3? HTTP 3, 3.0. Okay, 3.0. Okay, so anyone knows about the RFC? What is RFC? RFCs were requests for comments in the start, but when the internet started, they put RFCs, and these RFCs became the law of the internet, all the rules and regulations of the internet, right? So everything implemented on the internet, mostly using the RFCs, and each and every RFC tells all the details how this thing will go and how this thing will work. So you can go and search for RFC 7230. You will get some text and all information about this, and you can get RFC until 7235. Okay, so HTTP 2 is the latest version because this book is old, not the latest book. So HTTP 3 is the latest version. Okay, so then the most of the semantics and the syntax remain same between the versions 1.1 and 2, and I hope that not much syntax is changed. The only change is the services. So you can go and just quickly search that what is the major advantages of web or HTTP 3.0. You will get the key points that this service is now available in HTTP 3, which was not available in the HTTP earlier version. You want me to give you another task? Okay, quickly search. What are the major features of HTTP 3.0, 3.0? Or what are the new features in HTTP 3.0? You might be thinking he don't do any preparation, he comes without any reading, right? Don't think negative, okay? I want you to do some job. Okay, quickly search what are the major or new features in HTTP 3.0. Yes, anyone want to read one of the features? Loudly, please. Reduce latency. How? Any explanation there? No further explanation. Yes. Okay, anyone knows that is there any limit for making new connection? You know how these browser make your thing fast? You notice sometimes some of the browser like Chrome is working fast and some other browser is not working fast. Why? What they do, they make a multiple connection to the server for each and every content of your web. Like suppose you send some web page request and that web page request has many files. Many files means a lot of images, the animations, maybe, the Java files or maybe some other, the videos, .move files, whatever. So they create multiple requests for TCP connections. So Web 3.0 also has some feature regarding this. But I'm not going to details because I have to discuss some other things as well. So just to give you some flavor that how you can get. So about HTTP 2, you can get the document 7540 to 7541, and now it is your task. Just Google what is the RFC for HTTP 3.0. Just tell me the number, RFC number, quickly. Google it. What is the RFC for HTTP 3.0? 9114. So if you want to get details, you just read that HTTP version. Okay, so quickly we just come back to our topic. What is our topic? We are discussing the URL lib package. So URL lib package and request package both support HTTP 1.1. So we will be writing client for Python for 1.1, but it's not a big change. So if you want to write some code for HTTP 3.0, you can easily get material on internet and you can write code on Python. Even you can get quickly. It's not big deal. So the version we are using is 1.1. So the difference here, you can go to this question on the Stack Flow and read that what are the differences. Okay. So we have already seen some exchanges. Basically, this is discussing about the chapter number 1, which I did not cover. You just go and read. It's not much. But we have basically covered everything which is in chapter number 1 as introduction. So, but in this book, they have used some user package in the first chapter as well. So the user lib package is broken into several sub-modules for dealing with the different tasks you may need to perform with the HTTP for making requests, receiving response, employ the user lib package module. Okay. So now we are going to implement it. So that thing we will do tomorrow lab as well. Today I am just going to show you the outputs, but you believe that it is true. And if you have your, the virtual machine working in your laptop, or if you want to check this code, I will never mind. You can download the book, just copy paste this thing. So when you see these 3 arrows, what does it mean? Where you have to run this program on Linux prompt or somewhere else. Or this code, the what we call the command. So when these 3 arrows you see, what does it mean? You should memorize this carefully, because otherwise you will be making a lot of mistake. You will be in big trouble. So whenever you see these 3 arrows, it means you are working in the Python interactive program, Python interactive, the shell or whatever. PowerShell in Windows. In Linux, you just write Python 3 and you will see these 3 arrows. Or you can, use some IDE, and in the IDE there is also a interactive, the Python. Okay. So must remember this thing. Whenever you need to run some Linux, so you will see the $sign, right? $sign, and then command. So if you want to try, if you have your working machine, virtual machine, just open your virtual machine terminal and you can write this the command from userlib.request import URL open. So basically we request for some what? Everything is written here in this slide. What is the first line? What we are doing? So basically we're retrieving the content of URL, straightforward process, and we are using the Python interpreter, and from there we get this package, specifically URL open. Then we write we are writing in Python interpreter, right? 3 dots, 3 arrows. So we write response is equal to URL open, and we provide an URL in the bracket, and when we write response in the next command, we will get this in the response. So what exactly it is, and then we write the response dot read line. So basically what it is doing, it is getting this file first. So basically you see this object is the response HTTP file which we requested from debian.org. So you request for the page and you got some page. And then you see when you use this command, you will get this response. or how you get it. So we use the URL lib.request.url open function to send the request to receiving the response from the debian.arg. This is in case of HTML page, and we will print out first line of HTML. So what we did, response.read line is the first line in the response. So in the bracket, if you write some number, you will get different lines in the response. Okay. So let's take a closer look in the response. We can preceding example that URL open returns an http.client.http response instance. Basically, this is a response from the server. So what we did, we use a package. That package is basically already a sort of program, software, whatever you can call it. So you just using that to interact with the web server, or web server of what? Debian. So then you get the response and source request. What we requested for the file to view the URL response that received previous section. So now we write response.url. So we will get our original web, the address we sent. And then same here, you can do multiple experiments. You can change the URL here, keep changing URL, different URL, you will get some files, and you can read the different part of that file. So basically that is the HTML file basic, and the HTML page you receive, usually you just get this through the browser. But now we are using through the programming, and we can do multiple tasks using the code. So we get the data of the request resource through the file-like interface using the read line and read line method. We saw the read line method in the previous section. This is how read line method used. So suppose we write 50, so we will get this specific line. So read line method returns the specific number of the bytes. Sorry, my mistake. I mentioned in the previous point that is read line number. No, it's not. It's bytes basically. So the number of bytes, now we will receive all this number of bytes in the response. So this all thing is number of bytes within the 80 bytes. So you increase the bytes, you will get more bytes. So file-like interface is limited. Once the data has read, it's not possible to go back and reread. So like suppose whatever we read line and we put some bytes, whatever we just read it, we cannot retrieve again. So then suppose we try doing following, we do the URL open Debian, and then we use the response.read, and we will get this response. And suppose if we just write the response.read again, and we will get this response. So you see that this is keep updating, and all these responses or all these things we are going to experiment in our lab as well. So we can see that we call our read function a second time and returns an empty string. You see in the previous one. So first time we get this one, and the second time when we call, we get the empty string. So there is no seek or rewind method. So we cannot reset the position. Hence, it's the best capture the read output is the value. Okay. So both read line and read function returns bytes objects, and neither HTTP nor URLib will make any effort to decode the data that received in the Unicode. Okay, so whatever data is available, they are in the byte form, and assume it's Unicode. So later in the chapter, we will be looking how to handle with this response request library. So status codes. Now we just covered the response object. Now we are going to another part which is called status code. So what if we wanted to know whether anything unexpected had happened, right? We just discussed that if we get the failure, so what sort of response we get. So, or what if we want to know whether our response contained any data before we read out. So maybe we are experiencing a large response and we want to quickly see our request has been successful without reading the whole response. So HTTP response provides a means for us to do through the status code. So we can read the status code response by using the status attribute. So like suppose there is a big file, we don't want to receive file first, we just want to see, check the status. Is it okay? Suppose we are doing some programming, the interaction with the web server. So when we just write response.status, so we will get some number in the response. So status codes are important. So status codes are integers that tell us about the request went. So code 200 informs us that everything went fine. So in that case, we did not download the file. We just check the status. Is it okay? Is it working? So suppose if we want to download the file, so then we request for this file. So there are a number of codes, and each one conveys different meaning according to their first digit. The status codes are classified in the following groups. So suppose 100 is informal, informational, 200 is success, 300 redirection, 400 client error, and 500 server error. Okay, so many of these codes you remember I just in start I mentioned 404, right? Anyone remember any code starting from 5? 502 or 501 maybe, right? So these are different codes for HTTP. So a few of the more frequently encountered codes, maybe the 200 is okay, 404 not found, 500 internal server error. So the official list status code maintained by IANA. IANA is the authority which manages all the name addresses and related to the internet domain names. So we will be looking for further in this chapter. So status codes help us to see whether our response was successful or not. Any code in 200 range indicates a success, and where any code either 400 or 500 range will be a failure. So status codes should always be checked so that our program can respond appropriately and something went gone. So, if you are writing a Python program which is interactive and it's sort of board or whatever, maybe API. So if the status code is not set, then how your program will know that everything is going fine or not. So maybe you can have an interactive program. Suppose if you get response of this specific code, so how to respond? Otherwise, your program will crash, right? So that's why it is very important. So an exception of encounter the problem, right? So let's go through how to catch these handle usually. So handling problem. Now we are going to discuss. So import. We are still on the URL lib, the package. So URL lib.error. So when you write this command in the Python interactive, so you will get this interpreter. So you will get this from, and now you get this, the URL lib request, import URL open, and try this URL open, and you will write this, the code. So basically what it is, this is a web URL for some specific RFC, right? And you will get in response that error, HTTP error as, and you print code. So then print reason and print URL. So status is 404, reason not found, and URL is this. So what we did actually here, we have requested for RFC zeros, which does not exist. And so the server has written a 404 status code, and URL lib has stopped this and raised an HTTP error. Okay. So you can see that HTTP error provides useful attributes. regarding the request, and in the preceding example, we will use status, reason, and URL attributes to get some information about response. So suppose still we are just handling the program. So if something goes wrong lower in the network stack, so the appropriate module will raise an exception, and the URL package catches that exception and wraps an URL error. And for example, we might be specifying a host or IP address that does not exist. Like suppose in this example, we just write this URL open, and in the bracket we provide some web address which is not a right web address. So URL lib.error.url error will respond like connection timeout. In this instance, we have asked for an index.html from 192.0.2.1 host. The IP address range reserved to be documentation only, and so we will never encounter host using the preceding IP address. Hence, the TCP connection timeout and socket raise timeout exception, which URL lib catches, rewraps, and re-raise for us, and we can catch these exception in some way we did in the preceding example. So we see another example. So now we are going to HTTP. So what exactly happened? This URL lib package tells us what is the exact error, and it responds to us. So if the web address does not exist, or the web address does not respond to the TCP connection, which is not a valid web address, there is no web. So for that case, it will tell you the error. Otherwise, you will be waiting for a whole of your life because nothing is coming back. No web is there. So now HTTP headers. So HTTP headers are also very important feature in the HTTP. So request and response are made up two main parts, headers and a body. So we briefly saw some HTTP headers when we used TCP RFC downloader in chapter 1. Headers are the lines protocol specific information that appears at the beginning of the raw message, and that is sent over the TCP connection. The body is the rest of the message. It separated from the headers by a blank line. So the header will come in the blank line, and then the rest of the body of the message. So the presence depend on the type of request or response. So here is an example of HTTP request. So now we send a get HTTP 1.1, the accept encoding identifying, and this is the basically headers of this, the message. Connection close, user agent, Python URL lib /3.4. So header are used for the several purpose. In a request, they can be used for passing extra data, such as cookies and authorization credential, asking for server for preferred format and the resources. Like suppose if you are using a mobile web browser, so you can define your preference of your specific browser, right? If you are using a web browser, Mozilla or Edge or Firefox or whatever, so you can send this information to the server according to the your requirement. Maybe you might have noticed sometimes you send a request and you get the response in a specific language. So many servers have different language web pages, right? Maybe in Chinese, English, Malay. So that also done through the headers as well. So for example, an important header is host header. Many web server applications provide ability to host more than one website. That is also very important header. Like suppose one IP address or one server running multiple webs, right? So through the header we can get what exactly this web address is. So same server using the same IP address, DNS aliases are set up for the various website domain names. So they all point to the same IP address. Effectively, the web server is given multiple host names and one of each host website host name. So IP and TCP, basically HTTP runs on this IP protocol and TCP protocol. and can't be used to tell the server which host name client want to connection with both. Basically, the TCP and IP, these protocol has no idea about what specific host name they are requesting. IP protocol does not read your request for a specific file or the index.html or whatever PHP file or whatever, right? Same for the TCP. TCP does not look into this header. So basically, this HTTP protocol allows the client supply host name in the HTTP request, including a host header. So we will look some more request header in the following section. So here is an example of response. So suppose HTTP 1.0 status is okay, then this is telling us about some date and time, then the content type, content length, server type, Apache server, content language English, and then further how this header is encoded in this. So the first line contains the protocol version. This is basically we just saw the protocol version, the status code and the status message. So this is our first line. The subsequent line contains header, a blank line, and then body in the subsequent response. So by mistake, I might have deleted the blank line because I was adjusting this, the PDF, copy pasting from the PDF. So in the original book, you will find the exact blank line. Then the server body, and in the response, the server can use header to inform client about such as the length of the body. So like suppose we know the how long is the message in the bytes, and type of the content. So type of the content like HTML or text, maybe GPG or maybe videos, MP4 videos or whatever, right? And the content response body contains the cookies data and client should store. So all these things are in the header. So do the following to view the response of the object header. So suppose we write response, open URL, and we provide this. And now we write response dot get header. So get headers will return us a header. So suppose if you are using in your the server machine, you will get different headers in the response because you will be using some different server, the date will be different, and many things will be a little bit different. And a lot of things, dot 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 means a lot of headers you will get response. So the get headers method returns the headers as a list of the tuples of form header, name, and header values. A complete list of HTTP 1.1 headers should their meaning can be found in the RFC 7231. So let's look how some use of the header response. So customization of the request. So to make use of functionality that header provides, we add header to request before sending to this. So we can just use URL open. We need to follow these steps. So create a request object, add header to the request object, use URL open to send the request object. So we are going to learn how to customize a request for retrieving a suppose Swedish version of Debian homepage. So Debian is Linux distribution, right? So we just want a Swedish version. So we will use the accept language header, which tells server our preferred language for the resource return. So note that not all servers hold versions request for the multiple language. Obviously, not every server is responding multiple languages, but whatever web server is responding multiple language, so you can just set your preference and you will get that specific language. So accept language, Linux homepage. So let's see how it works. So we create a request object. So from URL lib request, import request, and request short req is equal to request, and in bracket we write down our the URL. Next we add the header. So req dot add underscore header, and then what header we are sending, accept language, and here we are sending the code for Swedish language. Okay. So the header method takes the name and the header and content of the header argument. Accept language header takes two-letter ISO 6391-1 language code. So you can find all the language code on this ISO specific, the list. So code for Swedish is SV. So lately we submit the customized request using the URL open. So response URL open, and in this bracket we write our request REQ, which we defined in previous. So we can check the response in the Swedish printing line. So this response is in the Swedish, and for that purpose you can do a very simple experiment. Just Google it. What servers are responding multiple languages? So you will find different websites, and you can use this using different websites. You can change language codes to Chinese, to Malay, to English, and you will get different response from different websites. So then we can check the response, and response dot readline and colon in the bracket, the square brackets we write :5. So we will get all these responses. So the accept language header has informed the server about the preferred language and that response content. So to view the header request of the following, we just write the request is equal to this, and request dot add header and accept language and request underscore item. So we will get the response this. So we can check again what is our header request, the previously set. So the URL open method adds some of its own headers when it runs the request. So response URL request item, so accept language, URL agent. You see this, it is set by the URL agent. We did not set this, the URL user agent. And then host, we set host. So we can also modify this, right? So a shortcut for adding header is to add them in the same time to create request as shown here. So like suppose headers is equal to accept language SV and request, and then request item, we see this is here. To supply the headers with a dict or dictionary to request object, construct a header keywords argument, and in this way we can multiple headers adding in the. So let's take a look how we can do this. So content compression. So accept encoding request headers and content encoding request header can work together to allow the temporarily encode the body of the response for transmission over the network. So this is we want to encode the text and then we send. So this is typically used for compression the response and reducing the amount of data we need to transfer. So this process follows the steps. The client sends the request with the accepted encoding list in the accept encoding header. The server picks an encoding method that it supports. The server encodes the body using the encoding method, and server sends the response specifying the encode in the content header. The client decodes the response body using the specific encoding method. So let's discuss how that request the document. Suppose we use gzip compression. Gzip is gunzip for the Linux, and this is basically a compression package tool. Like suppose you use the WinRAR or zip in Windows or any other. So let's first request. So request is equal to REQ is equal to request, in the bracket we write the Debian, and next accept encoding header. So request add header, and where we write gzip. So add, then submit the header URL open request, URL open request, and then we can check if the server is using gzip compression by looking at the response of the content. So the encoding gather content encoding gzip, it means that this server is supporting this the encoding. So we can decompose the body of the data using gzip module, import gzip, content is equal to gzip.decompress response.read content.split lines, and then we can read all this. So what exactly we did, we asked a server to send us all the files in zip format or compressed format. So basically, instead of sending, sample one by one different files, it just compressed and send a whole, and then you can unzip or, the decompress. So encoding are registered by the IANA, and the current encoding gzip, compress, deflate, and the identity. The first three refers to a specific compression method. The last one allows the client to specify that does not want to encode applied to the content. So let's see what happens if we ask for compression using the identity encoding. So request, the same way we just write request, and then header, we define the identity, and we just use the URL open, and then print response gather content encoding. So it says none. When a server uses identity encoding type, no contact encoding header is included in the response. So as we mentioned, the last identity means no, the compression. Now we are discussing the multiple values. So to tell the server that we can accept more than one encoding, add more values to the accept encoding header. So and separate them by commas. So let's try this request object. So request object Debian. Now we add our header. In the header we define encoding, default, gzip, and identity. Means all three we accept. This is from the client side, right? So request header accept encodings. Now here you see we write encodings. So now we submit the request and check for the response. So when we say response URL open request, and response gather is content encoding gzip. So it means that that server is only supporting the gzip encoding. We request for all three, and we get the response of gzip. So if we needed, relative weightings can be given to specific encoding. Like suppose if we have some priority like 1, 2, 3. So encoding gzip default Q.8 identity is 0.0. So Q value follows the encoding name, and it's separate by the semicolon, and the maximum Q value is 1.0, and this is also the default. If no Q value is given, so the preceding line should be separated as by first preference for the encoding is gzip. So suppose here we did not define anything, right? So for deflate we define the 0.8, and for the identity we define 0.0. So my second preference is deflate, and the identity or nothing else is available. If nothing available, so just the last preference is the identity. Content negotiation. So content compression and accept encoding headers and language section with the accept language header are example of content negotiation. So where the client specifies preferences regarding the format, content, requested resources, the following headers also useful. Like suppose accept for requesting a preferred file format, accept char set for requesting resources in a preferred char set. Okay, character set basically. So there are additional aspects to the content negotiation mechanism, but because it's inconsistently supported, become quite involved, so we won't be covering this. So RFC 7231 contains all details about this. So you can find further in the next of the sections. So now content types. So HTTP can be used to transport any type of file and data. I already mentioned in earlier, like suppose HTML files, images, videos, whatever. So the server can use the content type header to respond to inform the client about the type of the data. that has been sent by the body. This is the primary mean of HTTP client, determines how should headline, body, and server return. So to view the content, inspect the response header as shown. So suppose we response URL open, now response gather content type. So we get the text slash HTML. So the value in this header are taken from the list which is maintained by IANA. These values are variously called content type, internet media type, or MIME types. MIME stands for multi-purpose internet mail extensions. The specification in which you want to see is available here on the website. So there are registered media types for many of the types of the data transmitted across the internet. So some are, this is text slash HTML, which is HTML document, text slash plain text, images, JPEG image, application PDF, it's a PDF, application JSON, it's a JSON data, application slash HTML plus XML, basically XHTML document. So another media type of the internet is application octet stream, which is a practice is used for file that does not have application media type. So example of this would be picked Python object. It is also used whose format is known by the server. In order to handle response with the media type correctively, we need to discover the format in the way possible approaches are examine the file extension of the download resources. So if it has one, the MIME type module can be used to determine the media, right? And then download the data and use the file type analysis tool. The use of Python standard library, IMGHDR module can be used for the images. Third party Python magic package, GNU file command, and also the other types. So check the websites we are downloading from and document anywhere you can test. So content type values can contain optional additional parameters that provide further information about. So this is usually to supply the character set. For example, content type is character set UTF-8, right? So in that case, we are being told that character set of the document is UTF-8. The parameters included after the semicolon, and it always takes from the key value pair. So let's discuss an example, downloading a Python page using content type. First submit request, so response URL open. Then check the content type value of our response, extract from the character set. So format params is equal to response gather content type dot split, and we write the params. So we get the character set is equal to UTF-8. Then we just write character set params dot split 1, so character set. Then again we get UTF-8. So lastly we decode our response content by using the supplied character set content response dot read decode character set. So note that quite often the server either does not supply the character set in the content type header or it supplies it wrong character set. So this value should be taken as suggestion. Sometimes it's not providing the proper. So this is one of the reasons that we look at the request library later in this chapter, and it will be automatically gather all the hints that find about the character set used for decoding a response body. Best guess for us. Okay, so you might have noticed that sometimes you open some web browser and the characters are wrong just because of this, the character set. You're not readable or some error. Okay, so we take some break here and we will continue after 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes.